Games are the perfect safe space for players to explore their inner douchebag without the pain of real-world consequences. But on the other hand, that doesn't mean all games are just gonna lie down and accept that. These 10 video games all had an answer for your deeply questionable, even eyebrow-raising behavior. I'm Jess from WhatCulture, and here are 10 video games that react to you being a scumbag. Number 10. Cheating gets you stalked. Grand Theft Auto 4. More than 15 years after its release, it's impressive just how granular Grand Theft Auto 4's romance options are. More to the point, the game knows that you'll probably be unable to resist the temptation to date 2 women at once, and it will respond to that in the most hilariously rockstar fashion possible. If you date Kiki alongside any other woman, she'll grow suspicious of your cheating ways, to the extent she'll actually start stalking you, even being visible in the background while you're on a date with the other ladies and constantly following you around. Beyond that, if you go to another woman's house for a hookup, you might exit to find that your car's been conveniently vandalized, complete with an incensed text message from Kiki. Oh, and if you go to drinks with her, she might just drunkenly blurt out that she thinks you're cheating, which is wild, but deserved. Number 9. Pulled out for crimes against wine. Perfect Dark. There are obviously many different levels of scumbaggery, and needlessly destroying someone's prized possessions, well, that'll do it. So in Perfect Dark's 4th level, Carrington Villa, once you enter the wine cellar, you're able to start opening fire on all the wine bottles that are in there. Now, to be clear, this is the villa of your boss, Daniel Carrington, who, while nauseatingly wealthy, hasn't really done anything to warrant such needless property damage. And the game won't simply ignore your reckless vandalism. The moment you've destroyed every bottle on the cellar's shelf, Carrington himself will contact you via comms and tell you to act your age. I mean, he took it pretty well considering. Better yet, in the 2010 Perfect Dark remaster for Xbox 360, doing the very same thing will pop an achievement called Act Your Age, Joanna, for rinsing Carrington's entire wine collection. There's mild scumbaggery, and then there's needlessly wiping out someone's entire stockpile of vino, which some might view as outright obscene. At least Harrington's rich enough to replace it all. Number 8. Reamed for shooting birds. Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty. Destroying harmless, minding their own business wine bottles is one thing, but there's a clear gulf between wrecking inanimate objects and psychotically murdering living things. To that point, if you decided to start shooting birds in Metal Gear Solid 2, Hideo Kojima will basically stop the game dead in its tracks to point out how much of a dead you are. Open fire on the birds doing their thing around the big shell, and you'll soon enough get a codec call from Colonel Campbell, who will question why you seem to be getting a kick out of abusing helpless animals. But the real gut punch comes when Raider's partner Rose chimes in on the situation, adding that she had no idea you were, quote, that kind of monster. Campbell then tells you with a healthy side order of sarcasm to get back to the mission, but only if he's satisfied. That's one hell of a way to make players think about their casually callous animal slaughter. Number 7. Romance won't be shared. Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 2 gives you many romance options, though the game is also aware that you might try to get with 2 characters at once, and it is fully prepared to admonish you for this. Maybe it's a bad thing that you're trying to get with 2 characters at once, but personally, I think it's kind of messed up you couldn't stay committed to Liara in the game she's not in. So there does come a point in Mass Effect 2 where you're required to lock in your romantic partner for the rest of the story. And though you might try to lock in 2 characters, you greedy devil, the game won't have any of it. For instance, if you're already locked in with another romantic option and try the very same for Miranda, she'll bluntly declare that she won't be shared, and she needs everyone on the ship to know that you're hers. It's then up to you whether you want to switch and lock in Miranda instead. But even if you do, she'll make you go and break things off with your other partner first. No matter what you choose, however, the game has inbuilt countermeasures for anyone trying to be a horn dog and double up on lovers. Number 6. Shouted down for playing slots during a mission. Time Splitters Future Perfect. Ludonarrative dissonance is the disparity between a game's story and its gameplay, and this can often be found when a game offers distractions which entice players away from completing an urgent objective. Case in point, we have Time Splitter's Future Perfect and its fourth level, the Kalos Express. Though the mission tasks you with stopping villain Archibald Kalos from launching a nuclear missile from his train, players who explore the train might find themselves lured away by the VIP carriage. Amongst other amusements, this carriage includes a slot machine, which players can actually use. But if you do so, you'll get a thorough chewing out from support character Anya. Over comms, she'll tell you you're mankind's last hope for survival and you're playing a slot machine. Given that it's firmly established that Kalos is going to cause World War III if he manages to launch the nuke, the fact that Anya didn't go off on an expletive-filled tirade is honestly pretty restrained. Number 5. Guards won't sanction your shouting. The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Skyrim gives you ample opportunities to be a chode extraordinaire and thoroughly mess with the many NPCs you encounter throughout the game. One low-key act of hooliganism you can commit is to enter a town and start belting out dragon shouts, yelling Fusro Da with all the no-f's given enthusiasm of someone stumbling home from a footy match with 8 pints in their gut. Within the context of the gameplay, it might seem like it's pretty harmless, but imagine being a Skyrim resident who suddenly has some idiot creating weapons-grade sound pollution just outside their home. Annoying doesn't even really begin to cover it. Bethesda at least ensured that the game acknowledges this, as if you dare to shout in any of the game's populated settlements, you'll soon enough be confronted by a guard who will ask you to stop shouting because you're making the locals nervous. You're obviously under no obligation to comply though, and honestly, it just might compel you to vindictively yeet said guard into the sky, and I wouldn't blame you. Number 4. HR doesn't want you creeping in the ladies' bathroom. Deus Ex. The Deus Ex games offer a high level of player freedom and generally reward exploration, though there are limits to that, and given the original game's protagonist JC Denton is male, you're probably better off staying out of the ladies' bathroom at UNATCO HQ. Those who decide they're gonna enter the women's toilets anyway will soon enough be met with sneering derision by one of the female admin staff in the bathroom who calls you out for your unprofessionalism. It doesn't end there though. You'll then get a firm dressing down from the UNATCO chief, who's clearly more alarmed by the HR headache you're skulking around in the ladies' bogs might cause for the agency above anything else. The gag was also repeated in sequel Human Revolution, where if you take a stroll into the women's bathroom, your superiors will remind you that despite your many physical augmentations, you are not a woman and should probably stay out of there. Number 3. Trolling Moogles leads to physical threats. Final Fantasy IX. In Final Fantasy IX, you can save your game by talking to a Moogle, and in the world map, players can use a flute to near instantly summon said Moogle to their position for a save. Except players who decide to mess around and constantly conjure the Moogle when they don't actually intend to save will get a series of increasingly shirty and eventually hostile responses from the little guy. They start off polite enough with the Moogle asking you not to call him unless you need him, but if you keep at it, he'll declare that you're starting to tick him off. Continue regardless and he'll proclaim he's sharpening his knife. And if this clear threat of violence doesn't stop you, the Moogle will then have a full-on meltdown shouting, "Stop it, stop it, stop it!" Even accepting that the Moogle has a commute to your position of approximately 2 seconds, nobody wants to be needlessly pestered when they're just trying to get through their day. Number 2. A threesome hilariously backfires. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Getting back to digital infidelity now, we couldn't possibly leave out The Witcher 3, which does a hilarious job of shading players who try to tempt 2 of their romantic options into the same bed. We know you probably know this one, but it is so worth saying again. Also, it's pretty brutal because this is a very long game, and if you've decided to romance both of them, it's way too late to wind it back. If you dare to romance Yennefer and Triss at the same time while keeping each in the dark about the other, you'll eventually be able to set up a threesome. Winner, right? Well, not quite. The payoff cutscene shows the lingerie-clad duo tying Geralt to his bed, gulping down some wine, and then just leaving after declaring that this is precisely what the duplicitous bugger deserves. To rub salt in the wound, Geralt is only discovered the next morning by his pal Dandelion, who mocks him for ever thinking he could actually take both of these lovely ladies to bed at the same time. Developers said a project Red aren't daft. They knew a sure percentage of players would try something so underhanded, and they had quite the perfect late game response to leave them speechless. Number 1. Coco knows what you did. Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy. If you missed 30 or more crates on any Crash Bandicoot level, you'll be treated to a post-level sequence where Crash has these crates dropped on his head, or while he gormlessly stares into the middle distance. Now, granted, it isn't easy to miss 30 crates in most Crash levels, and generally you'd need to be actively trying to do so, which likely explains why Crash's sister Coco gives you the stink eye if and when it happens. Coco is playable for the first time in Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped, and if you miss 30 crates on any of her levels, the follow-up sequence will show Coco being battered with the crates before falling to the floor. At this point, she'll regain her composure and glare directly at the player for a brief moment before rolling her eyes and standing to her feet. Coco couldn't be much clearer about things here. She knows what you did, and she's super pissed about it.